Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I love exploring different ways of using aromatherapy oils, and one of the ways I like to use them is by making my own rolettes. Using these handy mini rollerball bottles that I can keep in my pocket or my bag is so helpful. I can choose specific essential oil blends to help with certain issues that I need, and I find them very practical as an instant remedy. I use these when I need a little bit more energy, or I use them when I need to relax. I also use them to restore balance, which is what I'm going to focus on today. Now, we all occasionally have those feelings where we feel off balance, we feel out of kilter with what's going on, or you can feel mentally or physically drained. And I find that essential oil blends can really help to restore that mind-body balance that is needed and really help you to feel grounded again. Essential oils are my go-to with various issues that come on, and I find them so helpful. So having them in something practical like this is really, really useful. So today, what I'd like to do is share with you how I use my rolettes to help restore harmony and brighten your mood and leave you feeling much more composed and able to cope with what life throws at us regularly, and really do this through the practical use of something that you can simply reach for. So you can buy these bottles. I've got a few here, and you can get them from stores or online quite cheaply, and they are reusable. So there is a definite cost saving with these, but the main reason I like them is that you get to choose what goes in here. So once you've decided on your carrier oil, so that's just a reminder that any essential oils need to be diluted in something. So I've got some mainstay carrier oils that I like to use in these bottles, and they're the slightly clearer, runnier oils. The slightly thicker carrier oils are too sticky, really, because you want something that you're going to be able to roll on your skin quite easily. So stay clear of things like castor oil, for example, and stick with some of the ones that I'm going to use today, which include wheat germ, almond oil and apricot kernel. So those are slightly runnier and clearer than the castor oil that I mentioned previously. But what it gives you the option then, once you've decided on your carrier oil, is you then get to choose which essential oils you want to add. So if you prefer to just use lavender in there, then you can just use lavender. If you want to use a mixture of 3 oils, then use a mixture of 3 oils. And I've had many of these gifted to me, or ones that I've even bought myself. And I would say 9 times out of 10, I just haven't liked what's been blended in the aromatherapy blend. I haven't liked the mixture that's in there. So this is why I turned to making my own. I don't think I've made one that hasn't given me some joy and been useful. So I do make mine regularly. So what I'd like to do today is to go through some of those with you, but I just want to start with a basic guide on the quantities and ratios. So what I tend to use as a rule of thumb, and these bottles are very helpful because they're 10 millilitre bottles. So you start with your 10 millilitres of carrier oil. And what I tend to do is use a mixing jug. I just find it easier to pour in afterwards. So you start with your carrier oil of 10 millilitres, and then using your little jug, I would then put in 5 drops of a middle note oil, and I'll give you some examples of those today. And then I tend to do 5 drops of a second aromatherapy oil. Now, if I'm looking for something that is energising and uplifting, I would tend to choose 5 drops of a top note. So your citrus notes, your ones that elevate your mood and energise. Now, if I'm looking for something that's trying to balance or ground me or relax me, then I would tend to go either for an additional middle note or a base note, and I'll be looking at some of those with you today. Even if, for example, you want to use 3 different notes, I would recommend that you still stick with the middle note as 5 drops and then split the other 5 between the other 2 notes depending on what you're aiming for. So the idea behind these useful bottles is to dab them on the body's pulse points. So I'm just going to run through the main 3 that we use in aromatherapy. There are others, but they tend not to be in places that you can just dab things on quickly. So the main ones are the temporal pulse point, which is just in front of the ear towards the top, and that's your temporal artery comes to the surface, and that's where you get a pulse point there. The other one is your carotid artery here, where you get a pulse point there, and the other one is your radial artery, which is here. This is where your radial pulse point is, so following down from the thumb with your 2 fingers, and it's where you would take your pulse point, and that's where your radial pulse point sits. So let's move into showing you how to use these bottles. So they tend to arrive in a pack, and you also get given a tool because obviously you've got to open the bottles, and sometimes they can be pushed in quite hard. So they give you this tool where you can lift off the top slightly, and then you use the edge of the tool to get underneath the lid, and then you can pop it out of the bottle. Okay, let's leave that to one side for now. And obviously, if you're going to be doing a number, you can do that, open them all at the start, because once you start getting oil on your fingers, it can be quite hard to use these tools. So I would recommend, if you're going to do more than one bottle, just make sure that you've taken the lids off already. What also comes in the pack is some little labels which you can add on when you've completed your rolettes with your aromatherapy blend, and you can just label that with what you've got in there. And I have made these up and made them into gifts before now, but I do like to use them myself. And don't forget, these are reusable, so, and refillable. So let's go ahead and do our first aromatherapy blend. So we're going to start with some wheat germ. And you do need to be fairly accurate with this. So 10 millilitres, because you don't want to waste any of your precious oils. So there we go. And to this one, my first choice is the base note frankincense, which I have here in my box of base oils. And as I said, you want to put in 5 drops of frankincense. Frankincense, I'm just reminding myself, it's a really spicy, woody, slightly lemony aroma. It's very soothing and very uplifting. It's considered one of the most spiritual of essential oils and is often used when you need to meditate. And to this, I would add 5 drops of marjoram. So this is a middle note, and it's got a quite sweet, herby aroma. And it's a great oil to help relax and really aims at comforting the mind. So it's a great help for those of us who struggle with overthinking and over worry. So 5 of that. Yep, they go well together. So I think I'm going to use one of my yellow bottles for this one. And you do need to leave just a little bit of space so that you can push the stopper in. And sometimes when these stoppers have not been used, the actual rollerball gets stuck. So you need to check. Sometimes just rubbing a little bit of oil on will release it. And then that's your first one. And I would use that on the temporal pulse point here. Leave you with that feeling of balance. Okay, so my next choice is a really, what I call a refreshing blend, and that's to use on this radial pulse point here. And I'm going to use almond oil for this, so sweet almond oil. And to the almond oil, I'm going to add the middle note lavender, which I know many of you will be familiar with. It's really well known for its soothing and relaxing aroma. It really helps to calm and stabilise your mind. Hence it's used a lot in relaxation and massage. Helps with sleep as well, and really helps to soothe irritability. So you can put lavender on its own in a diffuser and you can feel the atmosphere start to relax immediately. So let's put 5 drops of that in. And to that I'm going to add cedarwood, which is a base note. Now this oil is really quite smooth. It's got a slightly woody, smoky aroma. It's wonderfully soothing and a really good balancing oil for the mind and the body. Again, one that you can use in a diffuser if you need to. It blends nicely together. So I'll use one of the clear bottles for this. Now, if you've got shaky hands, because this is quite challenging sometimes, you can get yourself these tiny funnels where you can pour that in. I do find that helpful sometimes, but I have got a little spout on this which really helps. Just pop that in. Let's check that the roller ball is working. It's not quite in properly. So that's our second choice there. And then for our third choice of oil, I'm going to use the apricot kernel carrier oil. And this one I'm aiming for a much more soothing blend, really aimed at chasing away thoughts that are worrying you. And this one is for the carotid pulse point in your neck. So to the apricot kernel carrier oil, I'm going to add the base note sandalwood, really rich, woody aroma. It's a very sensual oil which has a balancing and grounding effect on the emotions. Again, another one that's used a lot in meditation. It's a slightly thicker oil, so that's why it takes a little bit of time to come out, but be patient and it will drop. And to that, I'm going to add 5 drops of Melissa. And this Melissa is a 3% blend in jojoba carrot oil, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. I love this oil. It's got a really delicate herbaceous aroma, and it's really prized for its uplifting and refreshing properties. It's great for helping to comfort the mind, really by calming those feelings of tension and nervousness. Really helps to calm you down. There we go. Now, just a word about Melissa, because it's a very expensive oil and it's often sold in diluted forms like this, which is a 3% blend. Now, the reason for this is because the pure oil, it takes 7 tons of leaves and flowers to make only 1 kilogram of oil. So because this is already diluted, you can actually use this directly on the skin because it's already been diluted into the jojoba carrier oil. So you can just carry a bottle of that around with you and dab it as well. But I do like to mix it with other oils. That's lovely. So let's just put this into the final bottle. So there you have it, your trio of helpful, practical tools to help you rebalance your thoughts, your mind, your body, so that you can get back on track and cope with the rest of the day. So I hope you've enjoyed me sharing some of those examples of what I use to help, and that this gives you some practical ways of reaching for an immediate remedy when you feel that you need it. And the aromatherapy oils that I've used can be so helpful in helping you with feeling yourself again. So I hope you have enjoyed sharing this time with me,